Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Shit Your Pants Wednesday on the DJB Productions Network. I'm your host, Matt Sunner. I am joined by DJB Productions Network creator and my good friend, Mr. Danny J. Danny.
Yes, it's Shit Your Pants Wednesday. I'm shitting. We're watching movies. I got my Charmin because it's nice and soft. Guys, this is a great day. We got some great movies coming up for you. It's another Shit Your Pants Wednesday. It's time for you to get the chicken wings, get the pizza, get your friends over, put some movies in. We got a great movie for you tonight. This is one of my favorites.
Yes, this is we're throwing in a classic. This is throwing in an ultimate classic, but you don't get to see it that often anymore. There's no, this is not one of those major marketable movies. There's not action figures and T-shirts out there for it. It's The Entity, 1982. 1982 came out same year as Poltergeist, and this also deals with a poltergeist. But this Poltergeist makes the one in Poltergeist.
Here's the funny thing.
It makes that tame.
In 1982, Poltergeist was a Steven Spielberg movie.
Mm-hmm.
Poltergeist, they're like, oh, it's a scary. I remember as a kid, oh, it's the scariest thing out there. You won't sleep for months and all this other stuff. And Poltergeist was not scary. Poltergeist was classic Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Okay, it was about
Poltergeist was creepy. I mean, I think it was
stuff to it, but there was not even so much that, because it really was all Spielberg stuff back then had this adventure to it. Mm-hmm. No matter what was going on, and that was about as scary as any scary scene in Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? And that's
I'll tell you right now. When the tree was trying to eat that kid, man, that was.
I would take the tree over the clown any day of the week.
But, yes, you would.
Yes. Oh, yes, I would.
But we're not talking about Poltergeist today.
The Entity. Now, here's the thing about this.
Based on a true
story. That's right there.
And if you are not familiar with The Entity, and again, this is why we're actually doing this movie, because we know that maybe some of the younger audience might not be familiar with it, because again, it came out in 82, and it's not one that gets talked about a whole lot.
No, it doesn't. And not because it was
a shame.
Not because it was bad.
No.
It really doesn't. It really is not. It's not a marketable movie.
Yeah, you can't put out T-shirts and action figures and who knows whatever else that tie into the movie. But the premise of the story is Barbara Hershey plays this woman who suddenly, for no real explained reason, suddenly has a poltergeist show up in her house.
Yes,
and it begins to rape her.
Yes, and you're like, "Woo!" You just
repeatedly, and violently.
Now, what we find out is that she was with a guy. This is the character I'm talking about.
Yeah,
was with a guy who was a very abusive spouse. He dies in a motorcycle accident, which makes her a widow rather. And not long after that happens, this starts to happen. So they kind of put two and two together that this is the ghost or the poltergeist of this ex still trying to control her and be controlled. So he's abusing her from beyond the grave in a sense. And what's really offsetting about this movie is that she's being raped while she's in bed sleeping. But you can't see this thing, but the way they did the effects were, and I'm assuming the effects were done based on the true accounts from the actual woman, is that you physically see squeezing and grabbing happening with nobody there. So the effects were great in this scenario.
They used a full body prosthetic. They did
kind of the
trick where like they kind of put her. She's kind of like actually in the bed, her head sticking out. And then it's a prosthetic of her body that was made so that they could actually, using hydraulics or air or whatever, be able to move it and squeeze it and pull it in, so it looks like hands, physically fingers and everything else.
It looks like she's being squeezed, like her breast and her side and stuff like that. But meanwhile, there's nobody there. And this is a very scary thing. I mean, to be raped is obviously probably one of the most horrifying things a woman can go through. But to be being raped and nobody's physically there, you could see how frightening can this be? And
you can smell them, you can feel them, but you can't fight them off. You can't gouge his eyes out. You can't kick him in the balls. You can't do nothing. You are 100% helpless in that situation.
Yeah. And like classic, especially in the 80s, if it's not tangible, I'm not believing you. So nobody believes her when shit's happening. Meanwhile, she's getting bruising and stuff like that.
There's bite marks in places that she could not give herself bite marks, because the whole thing is like, well, oh no, you're doing this and you're hurting yourself, and you're suffering from a psychosis. Well, it's like, the bite isn't on my forearm where I can no, it's on my clavicle where unless I can literally take my own head off, unless I can just remove my head from my body, bite myself, and then put my head back on, who the hell did it?
I'm sure there's a website for that, but but seriously, I mean,
there's a website for everything these days.
But like one guy believes her, at least quasi believes her, and he's a doctor or a scientist, and it's a paranormal thing. So it's like this is
the parapsychology department of the university comes in and starts setting up, and this which is very much like Poltergeist. They're coming in trying to document it, and they actually get some evidence. Some stuff starts happening while they're there.
Where even though that's their field, the evidence to prove what they are studying, even in general, is scarce to none. So even they're kind of like, oh yeah, I really. It's almost like they want to believe in what they profess and study, but like until this comes along, they're like, because the almost the excitement, they're like, holy shit, like this is really happening, like oh my god, blah, blah, blah. It's nuts. One scene, and like I said, we don't like to spoil stuff or whatever, but one scene in particular, which really drives home what we're talking about, is that she remarries, to a really nice man who loves her to death and blah, blah, blah. And then this stuff starts happening. And even he doesn't believe her. He does not believe her. He thinks she's going nuts. And
it's like, oh, I thought you're telling me. I thought you were, because he's away on business when everything happens.
Right. So he never
and when he comes back, she's trying to tell him, well, I was attacked, but there was really nobody there. No. And he's all like, oh, I thought you actually meant like you were being attacked. And then sure enough,
he thinks
but like 15 minutes later, it's like he sees it. And he's like,
check this out though. She screams for him. She's in the bed, held down. He comes in, she's buck ass naked, and her body's being squeezed, and she's like, help me. Like you could tell she's being raped, and he's looking at this like, what the fuck is happening? He takes a chair. He doesn't even see what's on top. He takes a chair and goes to save his wife, but he just hits her breaks a fucking chair right over her chest, right? And you're like, holy shit! Like he just busted her with a chair because he didn't know what to do because this thing's on.
And the son busts in too, figuring like he's trying to attack her. So the son knows stuff's been going on, but if he comes in, all he sees is him standing there with the chair, getting ready to hit her,
and he hits her. He hits her with the chair, and so the son attacks the stepdad and all that other. So it's crazy stuff. There's a lot of jump scares, especially when jump scares were not big back in 1982. That wasn't really a thing yet, but there are a couple jump scares in this that really make you scared. All the way to the very end of the movie, the last scene of the movie creeps you out at the very end. And once again, because you go back and think this is based on a true story. Now, whenever later on in life, we figured out that based on a true story means not everything I'm looking at is 100% true.
Yeah. Everything has to be, we have to make it entertaining. Some of the stuff has to be over the top. Sometimes, they take creative license with the dialogue, because again, we need, it has to be entertaining. Otherwise it's a documentary that you're sitting back for watching and like, oh wow, this, it's becomes an academic movie.
Yes.
more than anything else, versus being entertainment. But as you said, the fact that it's based on a true story, and the fact that this woman made these claims, and her children have seen it happen. Because I was thinking at one point, it's not just like, oh, when she's in her bedroom by herself. One point, this thing attacks her while she's sitting there, and all three of her kids are in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there in the living room.
They do stuff. They try and capture it. They try and stop it. Get yourself all the way to the very last scene of the movie. When I say scene, I'm talking the last visual thing you see before the credits roll, and some creepy shit happens. Yeah. And then they do, which I always, as a kid, found this to be the creepiest thing in the world, when they give you like what really happened.
Yeah.
Like afterwards, because they tell you that, after the events of this movie, she still, although it is lessened somewhat, she still,
the frequency and intensity has been lessened, but it's still happening.
That type of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of really neat stuff, and it's one of those things where classic scary movie, and it's scary because of the fact that this is happening to some poor woman who by now is probably dead or something like that. But but
the actual events took place, I believe it was 1976. 1976 is when the original events happened. Mm-hmm. So you said, that it's already now, we're what, 50 years later, almost. Yeah. Almost 50 years later, and she was in her she had this first kid pretty young. So yeah, she's probably in her late 70s if she's still alive at this point. But again, it's just, what's great too is it's great filmmaking. Let's just forget about the scariness of the topic and the actual events that go on. The way it is shot, and the music that's used, and just everything in it, you are going to be tense the entire time you're watching it.
Mm-hmm. And I did this.
It really puts you in kind of in her shoes, where it's like, when, where, and how is it going to happen again?
Now, because I like this movie a lot, when we were doing Shit Your Pants Wednesday for real in our apartments and stuff like that 25 years ago, I invited my one buddy over and watched it, and he was watching it. And there's one in particular scene in the middle of the movie, which is a jump scare. And when I tell you, he was just whatever the whole time up until that happened. And he literally was like, holy shit, and fell off my couch at the time. That's how bad it scared him. And I'm on my mother's grave that happened. And I'm telling you, this is a great movie. This is a great Shit Your Pants Wednesday, because once again, if you like horror, this is one that is, I don't want to say a hidden gem. This is one, like we said, it's not a marketable movie, but that's why you don't see it really at all anymore. Because nowadays, if you can't slap a T-shirt on it, there's no point in putting it out there. But this movie, it really is one of the top scary, I don't want to say scariest, but it's one of the top scary movies. Another movie that's based on true events was The Exorcist, as an example.
The Changeling.
The Changeling.
We should talk about that one in a future episode as well.
Yeah. But like, I would say this was on par with The Exorcist, but The Exorcist was a little bit more in your face.
Yeah.
I think with The Exorcist, you're talking about things that people would like, oh, I hope that never happens. Oh, how horrible would that be if that happened to me? Whereas this is like, holy shit, well, this really did happen. Well, I mean, apparently The Exorcist did too, to a point or whatever. Yeah. But in such a plain thing, like basically real life bad things happening to somebody, only that now it's paranormal.
Yeah.
So think about that. You can't even get away from a bad person in death. And that's where I think that's where it becomes really, really scary, because you're like, my God, because a woman that's in a bad relationship with an abusive husband or what have you, it's a physical nightmare. And as a part of this show, if anybody is relatable to that and in that type of situation, seek help. Go to,
Yes.
there's plenty of websites that you can go to. There's plenty of hotlines you can contact. Seek help for that. There's always somebody there that will help you. You don't have to endure that type of abuse or anything like that. There's
Exactly.
nothing that you've done that makes you deserve that. And so we urge you that if you are in this case, if you want to keep it quiet, but you do reach out, get some help. Do not stay in a situation like that. This movie, I think, will hit home to a lot of people in that situation, in a sense.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's another thing that makes it kind of like offsetting. When I say scary is not really the word I want to. Almost like an awkwardness this movie puts into you. It's almost like
Yeah.
an offset. It's very offsetting, or like disturbing.
Yes.
Disturbing
Yes.
is the best word I can describe this movie as, is disturbing. And it's not in the sense of, oh, I shouldn't watch that. No, you can watch anything on this movie, but
Yes.
content itself is disturbing in that
Unless,
fact.
of course, with the exception of small children, this movie is obviously rated R. It is
Yes.
rated R for a very, very good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I know too. It's one of those things where, and I'll admit, I mean, this is a movie I'd known about for years, and even I, excuse me, had never actually seen the entire movie.
Right.
And when we knew we wanted to talk about this, I was like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually, I found it. I watched it because I need to, obviously be making sure that, I'm talking with, having basis in reality here.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my son, I've got an almost 12-year-old. I said, look, Daddy's going to be watching some movies. I said, you want to go use the laptop, whatever, with your buddies. I was like, you go in there and you stay in there. And I said, if you need to come out of there for any reason, you just kind of pop that door open and be like, hey, Daddy, I need to come out and get something so I can turn this off. Because, there's plenty of horror movies I've had on TV, where it's like, okay, if you walk through the room, it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, this one, no, I don't even want him catching out of the corner of his eye, because I just obviously visuals involved, but again, knowing that it was going to be very intense, so
Yes.
yeah, definitely keep the small kids away. This isn't Freddy Krueger that you're going to kind of laugh at because, ooh, Freddy said a bad word and, but he was funny in it. No, this is called, it will traumatize young children.
It's a trauma-inducing movie. It really
honestly, it is.
Because I think,
like I said, as you said, it was very disturbing. As I was watching it, again, the entire time, it's like you're tense because it's like, okay, when's it coming again? And as you say, people in your real life situations don't know when it's coming again either.
And once
when
again,
they're dealing with a live human being.
This is a scenario where you never get to see the antagonist, and because of that makes it 100 times worse.
Yeah, it's not even like you get like a spectral form, and it's like no, because then it's almost kind of almost adds a cheese factor. If you can see it, it makes it less scary.
Yeah. In this case, you don't, and it could happen at any given time. You could be making tea, and also, and something happened, and that's the kind of scenario with this. So definitely, viewer discretion advised.
Yes.
Once again, Matt, I think will also in the description we'll have a link to websites for anybody who needs to contact.
Yes, if you're in a true abusive relationship with a physical human being.
Yeah, we'll have a link in the description as well. But Matt, go ahead, take us home.
All right, everybody. For myself, Matt Sunner, my good buddy Danny J, the entire DJB Productions Network crew, we thank you for watching Shit Your Pants Wednesday. We hope you have your own Shit Your Pants Wednesday parties. We will have the link to our Facebook page in the description as well, so you can join us over there. So you can actually post pictures of yourself, your friends, your family, as they now say. Yes. Enjoying these movies. Comment if you've seen it. If you have suggestions for us. Just anything, we want to hear from you.
Yes,
absolutely. Again, the entity, absolutely terrifying, disturbing. You will enjoy it. So until the next time, make sure you keep an extra pair of drawers handy because you just might shit your pants.
And remember, wipes are not always flushable.
No.
They're not.
No, not.